For high school science is the female hormone. There's a little in men too. It's all delicately balanced. But scientists are discovering that many chemicals, like the pesticides in Lake Apopka, act like estrogen. And their theory, once inside the body, those chemicals may short-circuit the reproductive system.
All that material extending out of the back of the fish happens to be both male and female sex organs.
Theo Colborn, a zoologist at the World Wildlife Fund, is just one of a number of independent researchers who've seen the adverse effects of estrogen-like chemicals on animals.
It's science fiction. It truly is.
Are these estrogen-like chemicals everywhere?
Yes, we're coming in contact with them every day. The ultimate test for chemicals today, we realize now, has to be whether the chemicals affect reproductive capability. And if we don't do this, we are headed for extinction.
While Colborn and others can only theorize about the effects of estrogen-like chemicals on humans, history provides a vivid case in point. The time, the late 1940s. Doctors gave high doses of a synthetic estrogen, DES, to prevent miscarriage. But some children of DES mothers developed serious reproductive problems. So in 1971, the FDA ordered doctors to stop giving DES to pregnant women.
DES is a kind of model, if you will, for how a potent synthetic estrogen can affect the development in animals and humans of the reproductive system.
John McLaughlin, a scientific director of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, has been studying the effects of synthetic estrogen on mice.
In the male mice, we've seen cysts around the testes, we've seen abnormal sperm, and we've seen undescended testes, and all three of these have been reported in humans that were exposed to DS.
I don't think you can automatically apply any study in a mouse or other experimental animal to a human.
Dr. Richard Sharons, a male infertility specialist in suburban Washington, is skeptical. What about the studies that show that male sperm counts are dramatically down in the last 50 years?
I think it's hogwash. I believe that there are technical problems in how that information was collected.
You do think that estrogen-like chemicals can have an impact on male fertility?
They can. The question is, do they? Do they in the human? And we don't have that data.
But what about the case of the mortician's mystery? It's a real page-turner, complete with surprise ending. The tale begins right here in the New England Journal of Medicine. Biochemist David McLaughlin of Massachusetts General Hospital helped crack the case.
A previously well man, married, fathered 7 children, had recently experienced a dramatic feminization where he developed breast tissue as a woman would. His sperm count had decreased, his sex drive or libido was reduced, all signs of exposure to estrogen.
After learning that the mortician used several chemicals in his work, McLaughlin tested the products to see if any of them behaved like estrogens. And guess what?
We discovered that one of them, one of the hand creams he was using, actually had the key that fit that lock.
It just mimics estrogen inside his body.
That's correct, and caused all of the problems that he had.
Doctors told the mortician to stop using the cream without gloves.
And he did. And over the next year and a half or so, his condition improved really quite dramatically.
The mortician went on to father 2 more children.
I think the mortician, to me, has an important message to send, which is exposure to environmental estrogen is a difficult problem. We're not sure of the magnitude, but we're certainly sure that it occurs.
And it occurs in places that would surprise you. At Tufts University in Boston, doctors Anna Soto and Carlos Sonnenschein were in their lab examining breast cancer cells when,
all of a sudden, the cells start proliferating, with or without our adding estrogens. Everything was proliferating. Something was very wrong here. So we had to change hats and become detectives to know what was going on there.
They discovered that their plastic test tubes contained an estrogen-like chemical, and it was altering their experiments.
We were startled. The manufacturers were startled. People we talked to were startled.
Some colleagues visiting from Spain picked up the trail looking for other sources. They tested cans of European vegetables. They wanted to see if the can's plastic liners were releasing estrogen-like chemicals. They were. So we asked those same researchers to check American canned goods. We sent 8 cans to Spain to be tested. 6 came back positive for small amounts of an estrogen-like chemical. The vegetables, the soups, pork and beans, condensed milk, even infant formula. But do we really need to worry about a meal of infant formula or a meal of chicken noodle soup?
Yes, I think we should be worried about that because in the worst scenario, that is going to produce effects. I'm concerned with the cumulative effect of pesticides, plasticizers, detergents.
Building up
And acting together to produce a significant dose and a significant health effect.
Could these environmental estrogens be related to David's infertility? Maybe, says his specialist, Dr. Zinnemann.
I would say that a chronic exposure to an estrogenic material, any number of them, could explain many, many cases of male infertility. People eat canned foods a long period of time.
But the fact that we found estrogen-like chemicals in cans wasn't our only discovery. We decided to track down that mortician, only to find that he most definitely had not returned to full manhood.
I was feeling like a half and half person, and I didn't know who I was because of what had happened with this chemical stuff.
Today, the mortician is living as a woman and taking estrogen by prescription. She told us a troubled childhood contributed to a lifelong struggle with her gender identity. And yet, if you had not been exposed to that estrogen-like cream at work, do you think that you would be living your life as a woman today?
No, I think I would have been living as a man. And that answers the question right there.
The mortician's doctor is extremely skeptical that the cream would cause that dramatic an effect. He believes that other factors are clearly at work here.
Roberta, getting back to canned foods, should we think twice?
No, this is such sort of scientific speculation at this point. All the scientists acknowledge that there's more work that needs to be done. But we did talk to the Can Manufacturers Institute, and an official there said that the chemical that we found is in the liners of 80% of the cans, but that the canning process should get rid of it. However, they haven't done this kind of testing. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done. This is very, very new.
All right. Thank you, Roberta. Coming up, they passed the photo test. They passed the